Okay, here we go. In the name of the Most High, our Creator, Bismillah, we begin. Thank you all so much for being here. I pray that all of you are doing well and are safe and are thriving as we navigate the several pandemics that we are experiencing right now. It's such a pleasure to see all of your faces. Thank you all again for being here. My name is Sadia Nawab, and I am the Director of Arts and Culture with IMAN, the Inner City Muslim Action Network. We are hosting, we're co-hosting, I'm one of your co-hosts tonight for the national edition of the Grassroots Power Hour. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all do some thumbs up, some reactions? Here we go, thank you. I want to take a second to let my co-host introduce himself, Mansour.
Nope. Peace, blessings. Pray everyone is safe tonight. You know, it's a blessing to just be in virtual space and physical space. I see our team, our staff, leaders, organizers there in Chicago. You can see a screen there for leaders, organizers, staff here in Atlanta. So we're here in virtual space and physical space, having a powerful conversation. So I'm Mansour Sabri. I'm the director here in Atlanta. And we're excited about these three wonderful, powerful warriors, sister warriors we have with us tonight. And we're going to get this thing started.
Yes, so we want to open up with just acknowledging everyone in the space. Like Mansour said, we have a group of people physically at our space on the south side of Chicago, as well as on the west end of Atlanta, and some dynamic partners and individuals on the line here. So I know we're all repping different parts of the world and of the country. So if y'all want to take a second and just drop what city you're in, and if you know the names of the tribes, the indigenous tribes that represent where you are. Of course, we want to honor the indigenous, the First Nations people, as well as all of the people who this country and this land was built off their backs. And we honor that legacy, we acknowledge that legacy, we know where we come from, and we have a vision of where we're going. So again, with that being said, we get started. Thank y'all so much. Mansour, you wanna tell us a little bit about what's going on in Atlanta, where you all are at?
No, absolutely. So it's an amazing time right now. I think that when we think about all of the moments in our immediate history to shine a light on social justice as a major focal point for the entire globe. Here in Atlanta, epicenter of civil rights, leaders, organizers are coming together in large numbers to really represent a powerful 2020, despite a pandemic, despite some of the other social unrest, to just have their voices heard. The work we do at IMAN is about making sure that every voice counts, that every voice is heard. Some of the things that we've been leading this year is a campaign for voter enfranchisement. Georgia has been on the map and has been in the news many a times on the issue of voter suppression. And it's something that continues to happen on the heels of this election. What we've been focused on is making sure that returning citizens have their right to vote in Georgia. We have a campaign called No Taxation Without Representation. If you haven't heard of it, we encourage you all through this Zoom to go to our website and read up more information on it. But in essence, we believe that this is an urgent matter to make sure that every citizen has the right to vote. Many states have already changed their laws to make sure that formerly incarcerated men and women have that right. Georgia has slowed in the process of making that a given return of rights for our brothers and sisters coming home from prison. We're pushing to make that real. The essence of that campaign is that when you come home, you have to pay taxes, you have to engage in society. And so we have over 266,000 men and women coming home who are on paper, have fines, et cetera, and their right to vote has been taken from them. So our campaign is focused on that. Our petition can be signed by anyone across the country. I know we have guests here from outside of Georgia, but anyone can sign that to really begin to put the pressure on for Georgia legislature to change the law and restore the rights of returning citizens. We have some dynamic leaders at our team here in Atlanta, and returning citizens. We have a new organizer here with us, Sister Karima. We're going to have her in space after this, hosting and leading a part 2 of the Power Hour. We're going to talk about that a little later, but those in space will have an opportunity to do some dynamic interaction. And yeah, it's something that we're passionate and clearly know that this is something important to champion right now, and bring awareness across Georgia, across the United States on voter enfranchisement. And leading this is our task to make sure that we connect the dots. This conversation that we're having today is about making sure that every voice counts. This conversation we're having about Cariol's Law, the work that's happening in Buffalo, is deeply rooted and connected in our understanding of what it means to stand up for social justice, to stand up for our citizens, our fellow citizens, our neighbors, our family members. Mass incarceration is the issue of our hour. It is the trouble that we see right in front of our eyes in terms of this over-incarceration of our men and women. And so these things are the efforts taking place to empower them. Our work around reentry has been dynamic over the last 5 years, offering housing, offering job training, and an opportunity for those on the front line, those who are directly affected by incarceration, to train up as organizers and as leaders. I want to shout out to some of the organizers who I see there, young leaders who graduated from our Green Reentry program in Atlanta, who are there in space here at the office. But this is the work that we've committed ourselves to, and we have a great team that's doing it. So, alhamdulillah, that's happening here.
Thank you. Yeah, so over 250,000 people who are paying taxes and who are not able to vote, and that's one of the core issues that we're organizing around in Atlanta. In Chicago, we're organizing around similar issues of people who are affected by mass incarceration and by the process of re-entering. We work very closely with our community members who are returning citizens, as well as those who are affected by the violence that plagues our city. A part of the work that IMAN in Chicago entails is operating a federally qualified health center where we work with physicians and therapists to provide access to healthcare in our communities that have limited access, and behavioral health and mental health support as well, which we know is several barriers to that, especially in our communities where people are walking around with just layers and layers of trauma. We know that this work around health, wellness, and healing is incomplete if we don't include the creative inspiration and creative expression and ability to tell our stories and share our stories that artists champion on the day in and the day out. And so part of IMAN's model is intentionally and unapologetically centering the cultivation of the arts and preserving our culture. So we work with several different artists of different genres, visual artists, poets, dancers. We have a ceramic studio right on 63rd Street in Chicago, the beloved Community Ceramic Studio. And we formalized a roster a few years ago, that officiates our network. And a part of that is a fellowship with artists who are, again, on the ground, working with our communities and pushing these issues forward. There's one particular artist who has just been so inspiring to witness her and to witness her growth and her evolution. Drea, who is no stranger to many of us. Drea has a soul-stirring voice. She is extremely creative. She's a singer, a songwriter, a musician, a filmmaker, a curator, a producer, and has several albums and accolades, in her 20-year history of professionally being an artist. And she's also a fellow of IMAN's, Sacred Cypher creative program, working on food access specifically. Hailing from Buffalo, New York, she works on things like access to food by being the executive director of a food pantry, and is also at the helm of the work around Cariol's Law, and works very closely with Cariol Horne, who she will tell you more about. But without further ado, I want to invite Drea to tell a little bit more about her work as an artist organizer and what inspired her journey as an artist organizer, and really what that unique role, what that looks like. So welcome, Drea.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I'm really honored to be here in the company of so many wonderful people. Yeah, I've been an artist like my whole life, but full time since 2012. And I got into this work really just being a Black woman in America, and also like a Black mother. There's no way you can really see what's happening in our world and not be affected by it, not be moved by it. And as an artist, I feel like moved to do something about what's happening in our world. My passion and my medium and all things that I do, aside from being an artist, I'm also a mother of 5 children. So in everything that I do, I'm always thinking about the healing of myself, my family, and my community. So all of my work is rooted and grounded in that. Yes, I'm very honored to be able to work with Cariol Horne, who you guys will get to hear from very shortly. I do live in Buffalo, New York with Cariol. And I'm going to say, how did I really get involved with doing activism work? I think I remember it starting back in around 2012 when I wrote a song called Cry for Change after I heard about the murder of Trayvon Martin. I think we all know that our people are too often killed by police as a result of police violence. But I feel like there's always that one person that gets murdered that, for whatever reason, that story seems to resonate with you in a different way. And for me, that was when I heard about Trayvon Martin. And so since then, like, I was moved to write a song about it, and I recorded and toured in Germany and was able to help people get that out, in Germany and Belgium, who were feeling the same type of pain. And that's when I realized that this grief that we feel here in America is really a part of a larger collective grief. And I felt like, if I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to have this gift and this mantle on my life, like, well, what am I doing with it? So to me, art has a way of not only reflecting the times, but art starts conversations, and art can move things in a way that nothing else can. I mean, the reason why we know about history is because of art. The reason why we know about everything that's happening really is because of art. So I'm really honored to be able to use my platform as an artist to uplift the movement, particularly the movement that is Cariol's Law here in Buffalo. I've been friends with Cariol for many, many years. I've known her for many years when she was first fired from the Buffalo Police Department. A member of my family would start rallies for her and organize protests for her. And, we were a part of that. We've been a part of fundraisers, and whenever she calls me, she's like, "Drea, I need you to sing a song." So I do it. And it's just really interesting how you can use your art. Art has a way of bringing people together. So I've been organizing concerts and to bring people together. We recently did a concert at City Hall in downtown Buffalo. I actually put a piano on the steps of City Hall, and the purpose was to really uplift Cariol Horne and her movement. So I feel particularly passionate about this particular movement because Cariol also has 5 children like myself. And too far often we find ourselves joining the movement to fight for people who have already transitioned, and we have the beautiful opportunity to stand with Cariol Horne while she yet lives, a Black woman, a Black mother. And I feel like I have to help her. So however I can, I'm not going to stop until me and everybody else that's working with her can walk her to the finish line. I also want to take this opportunity, if I may, just take 2 of my minutes to introduce Terry Watson of Strategies for Justice. I want to introduce him because he actually was responsible for writing Cariol's Law along with Cariol Horne. And Terry, if you could just do like a super brief, maybe 2-minute introduction, just let us know like how you got involved with this work. But really, we only have 2 minutes. Thanks.
Well, I want to hear y'all speak. To be honest with you, I think I do a lot of talking, so sometimes it's good to listen. But I'll keep it short. So my name is Terry Watson. I'm the founder of Strategies for Justice, which is a speaking training bureau that focuses on race, disability, gender, and law enforcement. I had a pleasure of working with Cariol Horne. She has a very powerful story, so I don't want to take up any more time, but just to say that, and Drea, it's always been an honor to hear your voice. I love your music, and I wanted to just have the time to hear you and Cariol and Dr. Rabb speak, so I'm going to be quiet now.
Thank you all so much. And thank you for that powerful reflection, Drea, on the role of artists and, some of the work you did with bringing the piano to the protest. And I remember you shared about how one of the brothers who had just been released from prison had got up on that piano and played till his fingers bled. And the healing that brought for him in that moment gives me chills just to think about it. So thank you so much. Can you take a minute to just introduce Cariol and just give, for those of us who are less familiar with her story, give us
and before you do that, Drea, I think it's powerful what you have right behind you, and that sign says "Feed Buffalo." Tell us about that project that you've been working on.
Okay, thank you. Feed Buffalo is Western New York's first organic, safe, and halal food access.
There we go.
So we give away free, healthy food to the community. And I started this because there isn't one pantry here out of over 300 that serves halal food, and my family is Muslim, so just happy to be doing this work. We opened our doors in the middle of COVID, and with God's blessing, we will continue to do that work.
And when you said art moves things, that's exactly what I thought about, is that the beautiful life that you have exemplified is about artists taking action and leading the way. So congrats on that big effort. And now introduce our special guest, our beautiful sister.
Yes, I'm so honored.
Tell her story.
Yes, I'm so honored. I get to introduce my friend, Cariol Horne. So Cariol, 14 years ago, Cariol Horne was an officer for the Buffalo Police Department here in Buffalo, New York. And there was a man named Neil Mack who was being arrested here in Buffalo, New York. And there were a lot of cops called to the scene. Cariol was one of those cops. When she arrived to the scene, she saw one of her then colleagues choking Neil Mack. And her human instinct was to intervene. So she stepped in and did whatever she could to try to get this man's arm from around Neil Mack's neck. And as a result of that, that officer punched her, and she had to have dental reconstructive surgery as a result of that, and still suffers from migraines to this day because of that. And she also ultimately lost her job as a police officer. And after working for just under 20 years, 19 years on the job is what they say, she lost her pension and she was fired. So for 14 years, Cariol Horne has been an activist in the community, not only fighting for herself to be restored and to get her pension that she worked so hard for and earned after working 19 years with not one suspension at all. She's been fighting for 14 years, not just for herself, but you will find Cariol at every single protest almost in Buffalo, New York. You know, I know you guys saw the video of Mr. Marty. He's a tall guy that was knocked down by the Buffalo police here in Buffalo, New York. He's an activist. When they rallied for him, Cariol was there. You know, when Quentin Suttles was hurt, Cariol was there. India Cummings got killed, Cariol was there. She is regularly in the streets and has been for the last 14 years because she not only fights for herself, but she fights for us in our community. So I'm so honored. Also, lastly, Cariol's Law. So Cariol, there's a duty to intervene policy here in Buffalo, but Cariol wrote, along with Terry, Cariol's Law back in 2016. And within the last couple of weeks, most parts of that law has finally been passed here in Buffalo, New York. And it was voted 8-1 by our Common Council here. So Cariol is doing amazing work to make sure that it is a law that officers intervene. When they do, they are protected. And if they don't intervene, there will be consequences for that made punishable by law because of this woman who lives today. So I'm so honored to introduce to you all Cariol Horne.
Hello, hello.
There's lots of applause, Cariol. Go right ahead.
Well, I am Cariol Horne, like she said, and I work better with questions. So what do you want to know? The questions?
No, absolutely. You know, first and foremost, as mentioned, you know, you are a champion, and we know that this happened some years ago, and 15 years. And this is something that we know would have been received differently if it happened in this day and time, knowing what has happened to George Floyd and others that have hit the spotlight, and the community has gone out and hit the streets to protest and bring awareness to police accountability. As a former police officer, as someone who knows it from the inside, share with us, just from your perspective, what this fight has been like for you, and where you would like to see it go.
Well, it's been a rocky road, but I think that it's well worth the fight. I want my pension, number one, and I also want Cariol's Law passed. And Drea didn't mention it. Cariolslaw.com is where you can get the information on Cariol's Law. But the law, the way that I was thinking was that, you know, I didn't want anyone else to have to go through what I've gone through, because we are still fighting fights that our grandparents have fought. So it makes no sense that my grandkids will still have to fight the same fight. So what I wanted to do was to make sure that no other officer had to go through what I've gone through for doing what we're expected to do by the public, which is to serve and protect. So that's why I came up with Cariol's Law. And thanks to Terry, he helped write it to where it could be presentable. And I think Drea, because during all of those hard times, I would listen to her music, and it would help me. I would cry, but I would still get through it.
No, your story is amazing, Cariol, and we have a lot of respect for you making that stance in that moment. You have 5 children. Drea has 5 children. I have 5 children. We do the fighting we do to change laws here at IMAN for who we are today and for the future for our children. I really want the 100 people that are on this Zoom, and hopefully the thousands that'll see this video afterwards, really get to know what Cariol Law represents in Buffalo, and how you see it as something that can impact other cities across the country. So tell us a little bit more about Cariol's Law, and so just some of the more details about it.
Okay. So, Cariol's Law is the duty to intervene. Like I said, I didn't want any other officer to have to go through what I have gone through. And we always talk about accountability. And there is no accountability, as we see officers get paid vacations and then they get found not guilty. So with Cariol's Law, it would be the duty to intervene. We wanted a registry. The city did not, when they adopted, or when they voted on Cariol's Law, they did not include the registry. So we still have more work to do. But if there's a registry, you can't leave one department and then go to another department and expect to be hired after you did wrongdoing in the first department. So we want that registry. If someone, even if they did adopt it, it would only be for Buffalo, the city of Buffalo. So we need to make it, we want to make it a federal law. So we have work to do there. So right now, the council has passed it, but the mayor has not signed it yet or vetoed it. He hasn't done either one. And she was telling you about Marty Gugino, who was a 75-year-old Caucasian guy who got pushed over by the police during a protest. And they first said that, you know, he fell, but in reality, they pushed him. And so when the day that Cariol's Law, I mean, I'm not laughing because he fell, I'm laughing because on the day that Cariol's Law was passed by the council, he came over. And when he came over, you know, he was saying that how with Cariol's Law, now you can call the police on the police. So I thought that was funny. And so today we went to a protest because there's officers that constantly do things. And in the case today, the officers basically charged the guy with drugs when they knew that it wasn't drugs. And there's a video, you know, showing that. So when I spoke to Marty Gugino yesterday, he was saying, why hasn't the mayor signed it? I was like, I don't know. He was like, well, maybe he needs a pen. So I was like, well, maybe he does need a pen. So then there's another guy and he says, well, we should get everyone to mail him a pen. And I was like, well, maybe that's a good idea. So the other day there was a protest. Actually, they used a protest in my name as a decoy protest, which I didn't know. And so, I was like reaching out to my team and basically saying, I'm not sure about this because I don't know who's doing this, but they made this video. So I want to show up because I don't want to, seem like I'm not appreciative, but I want to show up, but I don't know what this is all about. So I go there and of course I went late because I wasn't feeling comfortable about it. And I wanted to just pull up and check it out first. So I get there and there's nobody there. So I called one of my friends who knows everything about the protests going on. I was like, so what's going on? And so she told me where they were. So I went over there, of course, not knowing what was going on. But the mayor was having a $600 a plate dinner. So when we got there, then the crowd is going wild, Cariol's Law. I was like, so of course she's like, the crowd, when I first got there, the crowd is kind of quiet. Can you go and amp them up? So I go over there and the crowd gets amped, which is what I like doing anyway. So Marty said, well, because I was like, well, we're supposed to have the celebration on Saturday for Cariol's Law, but it's not signed yet. So that puts me in an awkward situation. It's not signed or it's not vetoed, so we don't know what's what. So we decided that we would go to City Hall and take him a plate. So Marty bought some tags, and the tags are $600 tags, but he thought that the leopard print would be really nice. So I got the plate. And then in the plate, I said, well, we're going to serve him. I don't know if you can see it. We're going to serve him some Cariol's Law. There's some Daniel's Law and there's some coleslaw. So, and we invited him. We invited, oops, can you see it? We invited him to Saturday celebration. But I said, well, Marty, even though we're doing all of that, he doesn't have a pen. So now we added the pen in there. So we took it to City Hall, but he wasn't there. Or well, he could have. Well, he said that he wasn't there. But either way it goes, we made the effort to give him a pen so he can sign the law, so we can really celebrate Saturday, because we'll be comfortable that everything has gone through like it's supposed to.
Miss Cariol, thank you so much. Like that is precisely the creative organizing that we're talking about. And thank you so much, Miss Cariol. I know
Sadie, your mic is on.
From our final guest speaker, who Mansour will introduce. Sorry about that. Mansour will introduce our final guest speaker, who will share more about the continuation of your case. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all get a thumbs up?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. So yes, but between Drea, Tenured, and Miss Cariol Horne's, stories and sharing your testimonies, this is really the type of creative organizing that we're talking about. And I think when we come from communities that have been historically silenced or have been under these oppressive forces that try to keep us apart, for us, it's natural to think that we aren't going to build power, we aren't going to make change without bringing our people together and without radically, creatively reimagining what our world could look like. This is what we come out of. We have to do that. It's what happened in the South Bronx when hip hop was born out of, all the fires that were all over the Bronx and the beautiful graffiti that came out. And, it's what happened in the 90s, the late 90s, when we had just a bunch of young Black and brown kids coming together, bringing people together in this segregated city of Chicago and from the suburbs to provide youth programming and health services 1 day a week. That has now grown into, a federally qualified health center. Really, this is the type of work that we're talking about. But speaking of all of that, and speaking of one of those founders, one of those young people, Rami Nashashibi, our executive director, who's on this call as well. Just thinking about that type of creativity that is a part of this healing work, a part of this organizing, a part of this, claiming our world as it should be, and music video, actually, in just a few seconds here.
But go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead. I think we're back now. Yeah,
this is what happens when you get that Southside Chicago Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. But anyways, so I was just saying that we're premiering a music video in just a couple minutes here, and the music video speaks again to this particular it's dedicated to Miss Cariol Horne. And again, it's coming from this spirit that's been 20 years in the making, that, we've been thinking through what our arts practices look like, being spiritually rooted, being socially conscious, and being aware of space and being spatially relevant. So our Drea, Tenured, and Rami Nashashibi have come together and collaborated on a project, on an album called This Love Thing. And one of the single that will be released tomorrow, I know some of y'all are here for the single, so you're gonna get it in a second. The single that'll be released tomorrow is called Mama Please, and there's a music video associated with that we are going to debut to y'all. But before I do that, I just wanna say, please, everyone, if you wanna pull out yourself, please don't share this on social media. It's going to be premiered, it's gonna be publicly released tomorrow. So I just wanted to make that clear to please not do that right now. And we'll share the social media tags where you can follow the full journey of This Love Thing. But without further ado, here we go. It should be on your screen.
Okay. Hey, we had a question at IMAN also. We can do it later.
rock mood on his way to school. Uzi submachine gun, boy don't you move. Threw off his pack, slipped on the cracks. Hands in the air, bullet in his back. Mama, please, I can't breathe. Get these demons off of me. Got the knee on my neck, I'm on the ledge. Baby, come home, don't fear the death. Border police, dogs off the leash. Maria begging, don't take my Louise. Cold and afraid, kid in a cage, gripping the scarf, praying to be saved. She's crying. I can't breathe. Who got the neon? I'm on the ledge. Honey, come on. Oh,
George had a margin. I think of Brianna. She could have been one. No, she should have been one. But instead of a martyr, she done turned into a martyr. We never chose these parents. They turned me into an author. They got a knee on our neck. I got a foot on their neck. They gotta deal with a death. They gotta cut us a check. From Brianna's Law to Cariol's Law, I dare you to draw. My area's raw. Youngest can dream on, from Iman to beyond. They must have forgotten everything we on. We can't be sorry. I lead around me. City was changed by a visit from Dolly. Want me to suffer and scream for my mommy. They must have forgotten everything I be. I'm a descendant of slavery. I'm a descendant of trauma. I'm a descendant of Shonda. That's my mama. 400 years, that's our trauma. Millions of tears, that's my mama. 400 years, that's our trauma. Feeling the fears, that's my mama. 400 years, that's our trauma. Feeling despair, that's my mama. 400 years, that's our trauma. Trillions repair, that's our mama. Please, I can't breathe. Get these demons off of me. They got their knee on our necks. We're on the ledge. Babies, come on, don't fear the death. Mama, please, I can't breathe. Get these demons off of me. They got their knee on our necks. We're on the ledge. Babies, come on, don't fear the death. Mama, please, I can't breathe. Get these demons off of me. They got the knee on your neck. We're on the edge. Baby, come on, man, don't be the dead.
Woo.
Yeah,
I'll give it up for that. You give it all the way up for that one. Beautiful. Amazing. You know, and just a quick reflection. I mean, it was painful and powerful. And it just brings up so much emotion around what moment we're in. And when art moves, this is what we're talking about. This is a dedication to you, Sister Cariol. So I want to give you an opportunity to just share a word after that. This is my first time seeing it, so I'm floored by the quality and professionalism, but also just a powerful message there. You there, sis?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, Drea, Rami, congratulations. That was a beautiful. And I can't hear you. Are you there?
Yes, we can hear you. Cariol's talking. Go ahead, Cariol.
Okay.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
There we
it
go.
was
Yeah.
beautiful. I was trying not to cry because I was like, oh. It was
This is Cariol's first time seeing it too.
it was beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Amazing. Y'all give it up again. You know, just feel it. Snaps, claps.
It's such an honor
Many
to
praise.
be here.
Many praise for that. Beautiful. You know, and that was Councilmember Ja'Cory, youngest council member in Louisville, Kentucky, who performed those amazing, dope lyrics, captivating. So we're looking forward to that dropping that video tomorrow, as Sadia mentioned. It'll be on YouTube, so you can send it around, you can share it, and draw more attention to that. I think that one of the powerful things that we've been discussing is how we build power. And in building power, it takes everyone. It takes the mother, it takes the son, it takes our lawyers, it takes our activists, it takes our young leaders. We've got young leaders in our space right now to think about the world as it should be and fight for it. We don't get anything. Carol has her testimony. We don't get anything to change without fighting. And we had a beautiful reminder here through our Congressman, John Lewis, who recently passed, who just stood for that idea around being good trouble. And that's what we're striving to be. That good trouble that gets in the way, sends that package of Carol coleslaw, and make sure that you know who we are, what we represent, and that we're not stopping. We have an amazing, powerful tenured professor of Harvard, but a sister from our community, who has began championing the lawsuit as an attorney for Carol. This is Dr. Intisar Rabb, who's on the call with us, and we asked her to come to really just kind of talk out the details. We are organizers, we are artists, we are activists, and we know that behind the scenes it takes a certain level of expertise and work to come together to make these things come to full fruition and work for change. So we have Dr. Intisar with us. Dr. Intisar, we're honored to have you on the call. I would love for you to just come on and share more details about the lawsuit, but also just how you've connected with this story and the sister, and how we can move forward and support you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Mansour, Rami, the whole IMAN team, and Drea, Cariol, of course, Terry, who I've gotten to know through at least one session in working on Cariol's case. I think it was a little bit more than that. But I'm really honored to be here and to share with you a little bit about really why I got into the case, but more than that, I thought it might be a good opportunity to walk through some of what I think goes into such cases historically, and then thinking about projecting forward. You all are going to get a mini Harvard Law School class tonight. I'm actually going to share my screen. Part of the reason I'm doing it is that now I want to cry because of just the sheer beauty of that song, that video, the message, the spirit, the heart, the talent behind it. It's like an anthem to this moment, and I hope it becomes the anthem for this moment. And I can't wait for it to be spread far and wide. So thank you to Drea, Rami, everybody who put that together for us. It just moves the spirit. So is it okay if I share my screen here?
Yes, ma'am. There we go.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
All right. All right, so I'm talking about two things here. So there's Cariol's Law, which Cariol and Terry briefly talked about, but Cariol talked about at a little bit more length what goes into it, as did Drea. And so I want to talk about the law, but then also the case. What about justice for Cariol in particular, even as she's fighting for someone else? I and the team that I'm working with really wanted someone to fight for her. So glad to be here with her on this call and talking about justice in her case. And there are just three things essentially that I want to talk about. Three keys, I think, for us to think about when it comes to this action and really any action. I was reflecting on the civil rights movement of the 1960s and how that really informs our time. These issues of policing, of violence against Black men primarily and women, of excessive use of force by police over incarceration and imprisonment. These are the civil rights issues of our time. So I think we can be informed by what the past was. So I think there are these three keys or components that I want to talk about. So Cariol's Law, that's really the province of Cariol's team, Justice for Cariol. And it had to do with everyday action, protests of the type she talked about with serving up Cariol's Law and a pen for the mayor. And the legislation itself, the passage of Cariol's Law, Breonna's Law, Daniel's Law, laws all over this country to stop the police brutality and other issues of injustice. And then Cariol's case is really about legal representation to correct the injustice that resulted in Cariol being fired for doing what was right and her losing her pension. Those things need to be corrected. And that is why when Rami called me and I first heard about this case, and I think maybe that same day talked with Drea and immediately got on the phone with a partner from Kirkland and Ellis, Kamran Bajwa, and eventually Ron Sullivan and Neil Eggleston, all of whom represent Cariol. We couldn't not do anything, having heard about her courage and example that she set. And with the tools that we have, thought that we wanted to bring the most powerful team of lawyers against those who would contravene justice in this way against Cariol and everyone like her. And so that's really then what it's about, justice in terms of individual and collective action amongst just everyday people, leadership, the folks who are both everyday people and folks who stand out from amongst them to lead, and then law and institutions. And I put that last because I think those actually follow the initial initiation of the action. So I talked a little bit about our team, the legal representation, but essentially that's us. It's two professors of law. We've worked together on criminal justice cases, Professor Ron Sullivan and myself, and Neil Eggleston, who's the former White House counsel to President Obama, and Kamran Bajwa, both partners now at Kirkland and Ellis. And so all of this sits on the backdrop of some of the history. And I actually want to take us back to the place that I think it started. Don't worry, I'm not going to speak for 200 years, but I do want to move quickly from that point, because I think it gets us to this point and gets us to understand a little bit about what is really at stake here and the power behind Cariol's model and this movement, the laws and the cases that we can fight for. So this country, of course, was built on slavery. That formally ends, and in 1865, you have a period of Reconstruction with Reconstruction amendments, starting with the 13th Amendment that abolishes slavery, and then the 14th Amendment that ensures equal protection of the law. It's supposed to apply to all citizens at this point. However, immediately, 1 year immediately after the Reconstruction Amendment, so that marks the end of the Civil War and trying to put the country back together, ensure equal citizenship for everyone, you get the rise of the KKK 1 year later, 1866. And at that point, policing itself is violence, lynching, church burning at the hands of the KKK and others, often whom, members of whom were actual members of the policing system. So policing, if it's operating in that way, is operating exactly as it was meant to operate from the beginning of the Union. Then you get Reconstruction legislation a few years later, attempting to put into words what the amendments were getting at. And Section 1, the 1983, so you hear about this in the qualified immunity context. That's the law that says, well, you can sue someone if they contravene justice. That's the thing that was severely curtailed over time. During that time, there are some prosecutions, many indictments, thousands of convictions, and eventually, and during this time, suspension of Klan activity. But then you get the redemption movement, where lynchings increase. There are over 4,000 known lynchings. That's what Brian Stevenson's museum in Birmingham is commemorating. And you get redemption legislation. That's Jim Crow, the Black codes that legally enforce separation. And the Supreme Court affirms that for several years, from 1973 until 1961, in a series of cases, including Plessy versus Ferguson, the 1896 case that upholds the separate but equal doctrine. In comes the civil rights movement. So now we get up to the 1950s to 1968. And that's marked by a number of actions, bus boycotts, folks having to integrate schools directly, even after Brown v. Board ended Plessy versus Ferguson on paper, lunch counter sit-ins, freedom riders. The March on Washington marks the end of that period. And you have following it legislative action of several types, civil rights and voting rights, and Supreme Court action at the same time, all the way up until 1968, marking the end of that period. What do you have after progressive movements? Backlash. That came right after Brown v. Board in 1954 and arguably lasts until today. There was explicitly massive resistance until you get the point where, as Mansour mentioned, Bloody Sunday 1965, but John Lewis arguing that we've got to make good trouble. Malcolm X is assassinated in 1965. Martin Luther King in 1968. And so here we are in the modern era. We're post-civil rights, but we're moving against this really cyclical pattern of make some gains, get set back, make some gains, get set back. But I think the positive thing is we're taking several steps forward for every one step back, such that the net gain, like the saying we know, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. We bend it toward justice. So that brings us to the movements that are doing the work on the ground in response to many of the really egregious events. Black Lives Matter started after the George Zimmerman verdict in the Trayvon Martin case that moved Drea as well. Angela Davis began to talk about abolish prisons with the rise in mass incarceration of the 90s. And we have the movements that we see every day with Justice for Cariol, with her team here, and you. They're arguing for restorative justice. We, as a legal team, are trying to are doing our part in arguing for justice in her particular case as a precedent-setting tool for systemic justice as well. So all of this is going to the same end. And so I'll just end with this. There's a saying in the Quran, an Islamic saying, that to save one life is to save that of all humanity. And that is why I really commend Cariol for her work, and why all of us were so, it was, really a no-brainer to join this case and to see it through. To see justice for Cariol is to see justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Intisar Rabb.
My pleasure. Just turning the video back on here.
Thank you. We can all get some snaps up and some claps and reactions. Taking us through the context and explaining the history behind these laws is so important, because, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the current moment that we're fighting in, but it's layers and layers of this, these oppressive forces that we're fighting back and resisting. So we appreciate you sharing that so much. Incredibly helpful. We just got a free Harvard Law, mini course there. So we're super grateful for that, and feel very hopeful and confident and trust the incredible team that y'all have put together behind Cariol. So Miss Cariol, so thank you so much. And our sister, Miss Cariol, we support you, we salute you, and we are also behind your justice, the 100 of us on the call here and the thousands that will be watching this recording later on. So I'm gonna keep I'm gonna remind you all of the calls to action. I'm gonna invite you all to the calls to action, and I'll keep it brief, short, and sweet. The first one is around our No Taxation Without Representation campaign that's being led in the state of Georgia. We have a petition right now. We're trying to get 2,000 people on that petition, and we know that if everyone here on this call can send that to 10 people, we can have that by the end of the night. So we're in the chat, we'll drop the link to the petition to sign on for the No Taxation Without Representation passage in Georgia, and how to stay connected to that. That's one. Share that with 10 people. Again, this is to support the voices of over 250,000 people who pay taxes but don't have the right to vote in one of the few states this is still in practice in only a few states, and Georgia is one of them. So that's one. Two is to support Miss Cariol Horne and the passage of Cariol's law, but more specifically, her receiving her pension. So there's a petition also on her website, which is dropped in the chat, that we're asking you all to sign on to and to share with your people as well. So that's two, very easy. After this call, I hope everyone is moved and inspired to be behind that as well. And number three is tomorrow, when we release that, God willing, the anthem and that powerful music video that we saw today that will inspire and move people to act also. When we release that publicly tomorrow, we ask that you all share that with your people, share it on your socials, on Twitter, on Instagram, and follow at This Love Thing on Instagram and This Love Thing 1 on Twitter. So again, those socials are shared in the chat, and we want to ask you all to share that account and to share the video of Mama Please tomorrow when it drops. Stay tuned for the album, which will be released in a few weeks at the end of October, on October 23rd. So stay tuned with that project. And finally, Election Day is coming up, y'all. So please make your voice count, make your voice heard. Don't forget to vote on Election Day. If you want to stay in touch with our power hours that are virtual and that do take place regularly, or any of the work that IMAN is doing, our social media is IMAN Central on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And so that's also in the chat. So we look forward to staying in touch with y'all. If you want to share any reflections of today and any recap, use the hashtag Fight Fear, Build Power, or hashtag IMAN Arts. Thank you all so much. I'll turn it over to Mansour for some closing thoughts.
No, thank you, Sadia. Beautiful. Just another congratulations on the single and the whole album. As Dr. Intisar said, I mean, this is really an anthem of our times. So it speaks directly to the movement, and that's what we got to remember. We got to remember that this is a movement, and it requires each and every one of us to have that fight within us to resist. There's a lot of things that are taking our attention, and with God's help, we can maintain this front of resisting and standing strong for our community. I want to close with a prayer, but before I do that, I want to just acknowledge that it takes a lot to connect at the heart. And with COVID and us being patient to connect via Zoom, to come into spaces with masks on, 6 feet apart, and still have that body interaction is a testament to our commitment. And so I want to just acknowledge those who are in space here at 7:30, 8:30, giving up time to commit to this work. So give yourselves a big round of applause. Give yourselves a big pat and snaps. We're honored by your presence. We're honored by the staff and the commitment to this work. We are striving to be that good trouble. And to do that takes artistic expression, takes organizing and activism, and the programs that we provide at IMAN. So it's an honor to be with you all in this team and to serve with all of the many leaders and activists that are on this call who've taken the time out to just join us and be a part of this. This is how it works. We got to take time to engage and know that we're soldiering together. So again, shout out to you, Brother Terry Watson. Thank you for joining us, and honored that you're a part of this work as well. And peace, blessings be upon everyone and their families. We ask that God Almighty, the creator of the heavens and the earth, that he puts remembrance into our hearts, and that he completes his favor upon us and his blessings upon us, that he makes us of those who keep the fight alive, makes us of those who offer the good trouble to stand firm for righteousness and bear witness that there's only one creator, one humanity, and that we're together in this righteous work. May God's peace and blessings be upon everyone. We'll be signing off here, but we'll be remaining in space in Chicago, Atlanta. It's been an amazing opportunity to share, connect with Buffalo. So shout out to Buffalo and the work that's happening there. And we'll continue to keep this thing moving. So God's peace and blessings be upon you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.